All right, Dad. Let's start about let's talk about your basketball career. Obviously, you grew up in Martin, so you probably played a lot of ball growing up as a kid. When did your actual, I'm guessing your grade school basketball program, is that where you got started?
Yes, it was, and let me go back a little farther than that. My grade school, my father, who was an athlete, played high school football and basketball at Hazard High School in the late 1920s and early 30s, and he was a good athlete. He got a scholarship to Moorhead when he was a senior to play football, and that's where he met my mother. My mother was a junior at Moorhead, and he was a freshman. They fell in love and got married and left school, left college, and came back and Mom taught at Wheelwright, and Dad went into commissary business. That's where he learned about business, working for the coal companies in the commissary up at head of Wheelwright. So anyway, and then I was born, and they moved to Martin where my grandparents, mother's parents, lived, and they had me, and that's when. After a few months of not knowing what to do, they got the idea of working in a store, and my grandparents gave him a chicken house next door, and that's where Dad built his first dime store, was where the chicken house was, and borrowed $50 went into business, and they had me and my brother Charles. We lived in the back of that store for years. But you asked about my basketball career, and Dad, being an athlete, I grew up with the basketball. He had a dime store next door. He had built a larger store by the time I was 5 and 6 years old. And he loved basketball and football. He took Charles and me to see Hazard High School play over in Floyd County when they played Prestonsburg in basketball and in football. So he started me playing basketball, and how he started was he taught me to dribble basketball sitting down like I am on this couch, and dribble with the right hand for a while and then with the left hand. Hands on top of the ball back then. You couldn't pick it up and carry it like you can today. Back in those days, your hands had to be on top of a basketball. So I would sit on the couch at different times, and he'd say, "Now I want you to dribble right-handed for a while and then left-handed." He said, "I'll go to the store and then I'll come back and relieve you and let you stop." And the store was next door, so it wasn't any problem. And I'd be practicing dribbling basketball. And one time he forgot about me, and near Christmas time, and I got so tired I couldn't lift my arms, and I had to go over and tell. I said, "Dad, I'm tired. I can't dribble anymore." Oh, he said, "I'm sorry, I forgot." But anyway, I'm telling you that so you know that I grew up with the basketball because that's what Dad wanted me to do. He loved basketball. And he fixed me outdoor goal in the back of a yard house in the backyard, and I practiced on that goal all the time. So by the time I went to Martin Grade School in 1940, when I was 6 years old, my brother went with me, as I've said before. Charles went with me, and by the time I was in the sixth grade, Martin had decided to grow a basketball team. Cheryl Frazier, a teacher there in Martin High School, and a relative of my mother's, and a teacher, good teacher, and the principal, James Salisbury. Martin had not done any good in basketball in the district, in 58th District. So they decided to grow a basketball team. And they came down into the sixth grade and got me started in basketball. We played organized grade school basketball in Martin for the first time. And it was also that year that I did so well that Cheryl Frazier was a high school coach. And so he decided to put me on the B team. And I made the high school B team. And I never will forget the first game I played in the B team there at the old Martin Gym. I scored 10 points. Boy, I was so proud of that. But here's the catch to it. I'd been playing outdoor on the basketball court, dirt court, and I came in for a B game, and I had taken my sweater off and my shirt off, and when Coach Frazier put me in the game, I had to go in for the center, 6'4" guy. I forget his name, Stiff, Vernon Stiff, a high school boy. He was 6'4", And he'd been sweating, and his jersey was long back then. They let the jerseys hang out, didn't tuck in their uniforms. They hung out, and we didn't have a lot of uniforms in those days. So when you subbed in, you had to take a player's jersey that he wore and put it on you.
Oh no.
And I went in and I had to put his jersey on me, and it was sweaty and dirty, but it came down to my knees. And I looked like I was playing in a gown. But, you know, being in the 6th grade and just eager to get to play, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Didn't even bother me. I went in and played like everything. I guess a lot of people got a big kick out of seeing a little guy out there in a gown playing basketball. But that was my first basketball experience at Martin High School. I played grade school ball, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And I played, Coach Halbert came back from the Army, and he was our coach when I was in the 8th grade. And I made the high school B team under Coach Halbert. And so from there, I went to be a freshman. And as freshman guard, I was about 5'7" then. And I was a freshman guard. And I played, sometimes I started and sometimes I didn't. Charles Lafferty and Gordon McCarty were the starting guards most of the time, but Coach would start me sometime, especially for my defense. He'd have me guard somebody, Coach Halbert would. He had me guard guys like Wild Bill Stumbo and Bobby Turner, and I was to stick right with him, like a boxing chaser is now. I'd be the chaser. I'd be on one player and guard him. And so I got to play quite a bit. In fact, I started some games. And Martin had never won a district championship before, never. And we got into the district tournament, beat Wheelwright in the first game over at Betsy Lane Gym. And we played McDowell Saturday morning in the semifinals. And Coach Halbert played me on Bobby Turner. And I guarded him man-to-man and had a decent game. That night, we played in the finals against Betsy Lane, and I started at the point guard. And I never will forget, I had 11 assists and 9 points as a freshman. And we won our first district championship.
Wow.
Martin, 1949, 48-49. So I was quite proud of that. It got me off to a good start. And then we went to the regional tournament, and we were beaten in the semifinals of the regional for the first time in the history of the school. So next year I came back as a sophomore. And my position was kind of fluid the next year for some reason. I don't know. Coach wanted to start seniors, I think, and I was only a sophomore. And anyway, I wasn't happy in the preseason, and because I was playing on the second five, and I felt I was better than the guards that were starting on the first five. Mm-hmm. And I discussed it with my dad, and Dad said, "I'll send you to University High if you'll go." He had a sister lived down there on Euclid Avenue in Lexington.
What's University High? What's that?
That was a high school then at UK.
So it was like a UK high school.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They don't have it anymore, but they did back then.
Okay.
And it was run by the university.
Huh.
It was called University High School, right there on campus where the educational department is located. Mm-hmm. And anyway, I wasn't very happy, and didn't look like I was going to start when everybody knew I should start. And I was told by an informant that I would not be starting, that it looked like the coach was going to start seniors, and me better than the guards he had. So I left practice one day, and well, Dad told me, he said, "Now, if you're not satisfied, you come home tonight." He said, "I'll send you tomorrow. We'll go to Lexington." And so I saw next day in practice I wasn't going to be a starter, and it's about 2 weeks before the season started. And so I slipped out of the gym while the coach would scrimmage 4 teams, and he'd two at a time. And he'd refereed on practice. And I slipped out. I thought I was slipping out, and he caught me. And being young and not knowing any better, what I did, I ran away, tried to get away from him, and he caught me and picked me. He was a big, strong guy.
Were you down the street on campus?
I got out the gym, and I was on the street. I was running down the sidewalk, and he caught me. And I was young, and I didn't know how to handle something like that. And he picked me up, strong guy did, picked me up, carried me back in the gym, set me down in his office, called practice off, and started talking to me. And he wanted to know what was wrong. I said, well, what's wrong is I'm better than the guards you got out there on the first five, and I think I should be starting. I had a good year last year as a freshman, and I'm better than those guys, and you know I am. And I said, Dad told me he'd let me go to Lexington and play for University High School, and that's where I'm going tomorrow. So Coach talked to me, and I got it out of my system, and he said, now come back tomorrow. He said, things will be all right. Said, quit worrying. And so I went home and told my dad, and Dad said, what are you going to do? I said, well, if he'll give me a chance to play, like I should get a chance to play, I'll go back tomorrow and see if he means it. Like he told me today that things will be okay with me. So I'll go back tomorrow, and if it's not, we'll go to Lexington. He said, okay. So I went back, and Coach Hobart, I was a little bit embarrassed. I didn't know, being a young boy about 14, 15, he made a good talking from me. He set us all on the side under bleachers and made a talk and told him I was going to be on the five. And he put me on the five that day and practiced me. And I was on the first five all year long and did a good job. I'm not bragging, but I did a good job for a sophomore. I was considered one of the best sophomores in the area. So anyway, that was the start of my high school career under Coach Hobart. I played 4 years under him. He was a good coach. He was a top coach of his day. He particularly was good on defense. He taught us a good defense. Later, and when I coached at McDowell, I used that defense, that Martin Purple Flash defense, and won my first regional tournament in 1966 at McDowell. I used that same defense.
So how far did you guys get your sophomore year?
Sophomore year, we won 30-something games and got upset in a district tournament by Maytown, the team we'd beaten, 30 points 2 weeks before a district. The district was played in the old gym at Prestonburg High School, and we just couldn't buy a basket. We had really two good seniors. My guard teammate, Gordon McCarty, and Doug Lafty, our center. And they just, for some reason, couldn't buy a basket that night. And Maytown got hot and beat us. They beat us 2 points. We had a lead all the way through, but a close lead. Down to 2 minutes to go, we had the ball on 2 points. If you were fouled, in the rules in those days, if you were fouled, you got to foul 2 foul shots and the ball out of bounds. And I don't know how in the world we couldn't win that, but we'd have a lead, they'd foul us. We'd miss our foul shots, take it out of bounds. We'd miss a field goal, get fouled. We just couldn't buy one in the closing minutes of the game at all. We just went cold, and they beat us, upset us. They went to the regional with 4 wins on the season. Prestonburg won it, and they went to the regional with 5 wins.
Oh gosh!
And
so really the best teams didn't really advance. Then.
No, Martin was the best team, and we were favored to go to the state after the district tournament or during the district tournament because Pikeville had lost out and Inez had lost out. We had won the Big Sandy Conference during the season, and that was a tournament. About 30-some teams were in it. You had to win you played all week long, and you won about 5 games to win it.
Wow. And
it was all made up of 15th regional teams. All in Pike County, Johnson County, and Floyd County. But anyway, we came back my junior year, and we were runners-up. We got to the regional again, runners-up in the district, and Inez beat us out in the semifinals. We could have gone that year. We had another really good team. Wayland, we'd beaten Wayland. Wayland went. Wayland was upset us 1 point in the district finals and went to the state. And that was my junior year. We won about 30 games.
How many points did you average per game? Your sophomore year, then your junior year, so forth.
I averaged 10 and a half points my sophomore year,
Yeah.
and my junior year I averaged about 18, 19,
Wow.
and my senior year I averaged 20, 21.
When did you start getting recognized by colleges, especially Coach Rupp at UK? Was it your junior year?
Yeah, well, my junior year in the regional, I made all regional.
Uh-huh.
Again, in the senior year, I made all regional. And Martin was one of the top teams in a regional tournament. And we got upset my junior year in the semifinals, and my senior year we drew Pikeville, best team in the region, along with Martin was Pikeville. Coach drew them the first game.
Oh, no.
And we had a 4-point lead with 2 minutes to go, and the referee fouled me out on a bad call. I stole the ball, was going down the floor, and he called a foul on me. But anyway, and the sub came in for me, wasn't capable of doing any good, so we lost to Pikeville. They went to state, and again, and I made all regional. So my junior, senior years, I made all district and all regional.
But when did you start hearing from like Coach Rupp? When did he?
Actually, I started here after the regional tournament my senior year. I had 29 points, I think. Didn't have any 3-point line those days, and I made about 6 or 7 set shots.
Yeah.
Against Pikeville, and made all regional. And he started hearing about me. Coach Rupp did. I had a couple scouts there at that regional game, and after the game, through Coach Halbert, they offered me scholarships that night.
After the game?
After the game.
Wow, that's how they would do it, huh?
Yeah, one of the schools was Lenore Ryan down in Tennessee. Told Coach Halbert, and he came in and told me when we were getting dressed, I wasn't considering about college. I didn't even, to tell you the honest truth, I wasn't even thinking about college.
You just lost a game and you were disappointed.
Yeah. And during the season, I didn't think about college, about playing college. I had broken my leg in a junior year in baseball, sliding into second base, and the tibia was broken. And I really had major surgery in March, and I really had a good surgeon because I had to learn to walk again. I had a cast of 12 weeks up to my hip, up to my waist almost. And when that came off in 12 weeks, my leg had gotten smaller, and I had to learn to walk again on it. It swelled up because I hadn't walked on it for a long time. And it wasn't known whether I would be able to play or not my senior year. Coach Halbert tried to get Ted Sanford to let me sit out a year and then come back the next year and play, but they didn't have any rules like that back then, and so he said, no, Griggs, we can't do that. So I had to, first semester of my senior year, I had to play forward because I couldn't run real good like I usually could. But Coach Halbert got me a good ankle brace, and he put it on me every game, and had the managers learn how to do it, and it stabilized my ankles. And I picked my speed back up and my maneuverability in my second semester. And by the second semester, I was playing guard again. And I became one of the best guards in the area, and because of that, I was voted All-State my senior year, first team All-State, and I think that helped me a lot. Plus, I had that I averaged 20 or 21 points a game. It's in between 20 and 21, I think, and had a good shot. I was fast. I could handle the ball. Nobody could take a ball away from me. I was just a really good ball handler and shooter, and was fast. And I was like you, Pete. I was a team player, and so anyway, I had that good regional tournament game where I shot a lot of good long shots, and made a lot of good drives to the basket. And Coach Rupp heard about me, and they came up to our banquet in April or May, my senior year. He was our guest speaker Martin High School.
It's funny.
Athletic banquet.
Yeah, I saw the article about that. Someone posted it. That surprised me. I mean, Rupp comes up to Martin and speaks at your high school basketball banquet.
Yeah.
I mean, where did you have such an event? I mean, didn't the whole town come and hear that?
Yeah, we had a crowd there
Was it
in
the
the
gym?
school.
Oh, at the school.
They held it upstairs in the lunchroom. The lunchroom was full.
Yeah, I
It
was
wasn't in
gonna
the
say.
gym. It was in the lunchroom. And I guess who I took to that banquet?
Well, I can guess. One guess.
Your mother.
Yeah.
I
She
took-
wasn't my mom at that time. though.
No, she was my date,
Yeah.
and I took her to
Did
that
you take her
banquet.
to impress her?
I sure did. I think it did impress her. Coach Rupp, I never will forget, he quoted a scripture from a Bible. He said, I will look to the mountains for my strength. And I said, and I thought, wow.
Ah. How about that?
But I love that old guy. He was, I had several opportunities to go to other schools and play. But in those days, when Coach Rupp wanted you, that's where you went. I mean, Kentucky was it. And all the boys that he wanted, he could sit down there and give you a phone call or something, whatever. And he could recruit all over Kentucky, no problem. I mean, that was,
Well, it's the program itself is that way. If a kid from Kentucky
yeah.
was offered to play for Kentucky, they would never turn it down.
During the state tournament at the Coliseum that year, that was a big gym in the state, the Coliseum. So,
Hold on, I'm gonna pause.
okay.
Together. Okay, we're talking about recruiting Kentucky. Oh, okay. Well, what were we talking?
I was telling you about after I made all state. After I played in the regional tournament and the state tournament being held at the Coliseum, Coach Rupp invited me down to the state tournament during the state tournament, and he would want to show me around the Coliseum. I remember that now. So Coach Rupp, I went down to see the state tournament the following week of regional, after regional, boys state tournament, and he showed me around the Coliseum, and used it as a show place to recruit. And of course, I was tickled to death, that Coach did that. And then later, Coach came and spoke at my basketball banquet. So anyway, like I said, I had some chances to go to other colleges, but once UK wanted me and I signed, I didn't even go visit there. Lake Kelly, I played in several All-Star games that summer. I played in one sponsored by the state of the KHSAA, which played the East against the West in the Coliseum in August. I played in the East-West All-Star games at Pikeville, and the Ohio-Kentucky All-Star game at Ashland. And I didn't go to Kentucky, Indiana, because it was later or something. I don't know the reason I should have gone, but I could have played in that. And Ed Diddle was our coach. And so I had about 4 All-Star games I played in that summer.
Oh yeah, I interrupt you. We've got a picture of you playing in one of those All-Star games. Explain that picture, because it threw me off at first that, one team was wearing dark, the other one was wearing white, but they all had Kentucky jerseys.
Yeah.
And at first I thought that, that's Dad playing for Kentucky at a scrimmage game, but that was the East-West High School All-Star game.
It
correct?
was. And that was, back then, was supposed to be the start of the major All-Star Classic game, how they do. Sponsored by the Kentucky High School Athletic Association. And the East, which the team I was on, wore the white Kentucky uniforms.
Okay.
And the West wore the blue.
All right, so the picture I'm talking about, there's one, it looks like you're under the goal shooting left-handed.
Yeah, I was driving the basket, and I went for a reverse layup with the left hand.
Did you make the shot?
I got fouled.
Okay.
The Cookie Grollmeyer, you can see his arm coming down on me there. I got 2 foul
Looks
shots
like
out.
you're pretty high up off the ground, too. on
Yeah, I
the
could
picture.
jump in those days.
Well, okay, so that was at Memorial Coliseum.
And Memorial Coliseum, and the picture was sent to me by Courier Journal sports writer, or sports photographer, mailed it to me.
Well, that's a great picture because I'm showing it right now. And,
Yeah.
And That's one of my favorite pictures of you playing. There aren't many of you playing, but
No.
that's a really good one. And so you were playing on the court that Kentucky Wildcats would play on.
Yeah,
that was
Coliseum,
the
yeah.
gym at the time. It was-
They had that East-West All-Star game in August, early August, and right after that game was started about 4 o'clock. They had the football All-Star game right across the street.
Yeah.
Stall Field used to be across the street from
I remember that as a
Coliseum.
kid.
And that was a big All-Star game. KHSA wanted to make that the big All-Star showcase for games, All-Star games in the state. That's what they wanted to do. But there were several other All-Star games. Like I told you, I played in one over Pikeville, East-West over Pikeville, and one in Ohio, Kentucky down in Ashland, and invited to one down in West Bowling Green against Kentucky, but I didn't go to that one. But anyway, it was a neat experience that year, and Coach Rupp saw me play in that game you're talking about. I came off the bench in the fourth quarter and played the whole quarter and scored 10 points in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
East, I almost pulled it out.
10 points, and that's against the All-Stars.
That was against the All-Stars in the fourth quarter. I didn't play much. Our high school coach had a guard that he was trying to get our All-Star coach trying to get one of his guards that played at Clark County a scholarship, and so he played him more than he played me. But finally, we were getting beat. The West was getting beat. The East was getting beat, which I was on. West was winning, and he put me in. I played the whole fourth quarter and got 10 points in the fourth quarter. Never will get that. And Coach Rupp saw it, and he really liked what he saw because he sent me the nicest letter. I still got it somewhere, I think, what Coach Rupp sent me. But anyway, one of the stories that I've got to tell you about, Lake Kelly, who later was a college coach at Moorhead, a college coach at Austin Peay, was a good basketball player in high school at Flemings County. Played for Georgia Tech. And he came to one of the All-Star games over at Pikeville. Oh, Pikeville did it up big, I tell you what. We had banquets, we had dances, we had practice. They even assigned girls to us at the ball games and stuff. Pikeville played it up big east way. But Lake came to that over there. And while we was practicing one day, Lake stopped me and got me cornered and talked to me. Lake was a guard for Georgia Tech. Now, you got to remember the time, but the Southeastern Conference did not have a lot of good basketball teams. It was mostly a football conference, except for Kentucky. Whenever we played an SEC team, we were tickled to death as substitutes the next year because we knew we was going to beat that SEC team about 20 or 30 points. And so, and they didn't have the gyms. They didn't have the coliseums that Kentucky had in those days. So there wasn't much of facilities to attract you. But Lake told me that if I would come to Georgia Tech, the coach guaranteed me that we would be the starting guards at Georgia Tech. Boy, I thought about that. He said, now, Pete, come on down there with me. He says, you know, Kentucky would be a lot of competition and everything. And he was right about that. But I went to Kentucky, of course, and we didn't get to play my freshman year. NCAA punished Kentucky because of the point scandals in 47, 48 by some of the Fabulous Five up in New York City. They shaved points up there and got caught. Beer and Groza and Barnstable, the gamblers got to them in New York City. They shaved points up there. They didn't get beat. They kept the points down. The wins down to 7 or 8 points or whatever gamblers were betting on, and the gamblers paid them money.
Wow.
And so my freshman year, they kicked Kentucky out the whole season.
So what'd you do the whole year then? If you
We practiced. Coach Rupp practiced us. We were allowed to play 4 practice games in front of the public, but we couldn't charge. They filled the Coliseum. We had 4 blue versus white games my freshman year. And they filled the Coliseum, but you couldn't charge them. And they let us play 4 scrimmage games. The NCAA did.
Wow.
Coach Lancaster, our freshman coach, slipped some of us freshmen around. We played a few games during school time. Nobody knew about it. We played Transylvania and Berea, and maybe one or two. We played 3 or 4 games that year as freshmen, and we had a really great freshman team. We were recruited to play when we were sophomores because Coach Rupp didn't know. See, all the players got to come back in that one year that we were kicked out of the NCAA. So nobody graduated, but Coach Rupp signed 8 of us to play when we were sophomores. But that didn't happen because they kicked us out, and the players all came back our sophomore years. And of course, we had 3 All-Americans: Hagan, Ramsey, and Seropoulos, and we went undefeated.
That's the undefeated team.
25-0.
Your sophomore year.
Sophomore.
Okay.
So anyway, we had to pay for something that we didn't do, and I thought it was unfair. If that happened today, I guess we'd probably sue the NCAA to death.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was very unfair. But we did get to play in the NCAA tournament. We go undefeated, win SEC, and the NCAA declared these 3 All-Americans ineligible for a tournament after letting them play all season long. They couldn't play in the tournament. They still invited us to play in the tournament. Coach Rupp held a meeting with us and explained it to us, and he didn't think that we should play because of the 3 guys were denied playing in the tournament.
Yeah.
We could play in the tournament, but without them, and he wanted to have a perfect season and not take a chance of losing in the tournament.
Well, in a way, I don't blame them.
I don't blame him either.
I mean, it's almost like, well, then it's your own protest. We're not going to play in the tournament.
Yeah.
And you guys, what was the company that ranked the teams? You still were ranked number 1, weren't you? At the end of the year?
We were ranked number 1 all year long. In the first UKIT, which I had to watch,
Yeah.
I played in it against LaSalle, won it. And Tom Gola was an All-American, and he played in that game against us in the finals of the UKIT in December, held at the Coliseum. And we beat him about 17, 18 points. And Lou Seropoulos guarded Tom Gola. And you know that watch I gave you to wear? Mm-hmm. Engraved on the back, UKIT 1953? That was what we got for winning. Each player got a watch. Instead of a trophy, they called us out and gave us a watch.
So the team that won NCAA tournament that year was a team you had beaten that year.
LaSalle won it.
Yeah. You guys didn't play in the tournament, but they won it. Okay.
Helms, we didn't play because we voted not to.
Yeah.
And Coach Rupp didn't want to play. He told everybody that it was the boys, but really his influence was what did it. Actually, a few of us wanted to play just the heck of having the experience of playing in the national NCAA tournament. But anyway, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So he had come back that year and showed the NCAA, he was upset, and we all were too because we had set out the previous year.
But get back to the Helms still voted you the number 1 team in the country.
But the Helms Foundation voted us the number 1 team in the nation after the tournament.
Even after the tournament that you didn't play in.
That's right. And they sent us a big trophy about 3 feet high.
Why do you think Kentucky doesn't count that on their national championships? Because Kansas does. They do it. They count.
I have no idea. I think the people are at Kentucky, the ADs, and maybe the athletic board have been narrow-minded about the whole thing. And I don't think they treated that team fairly. Over the years, they not treated the 53-54 team fairly.
I looked at my history of Helms. I think there were actually 2 years that Kentucky was ranked number 1 end of the year by Helms, but those 2 years are not included in our 8 national championships.
No.
My point is, if Kansas can do it, they claim they have 5, including the 2 Helms.
Well,
then Kentucky would have 10 right now.
Yeah.
See, that's my point. But anyway, that's I guess.
I agree with you. Certainly, to be ranked number 1 ahead of the NCAA champions, that's a great honor. And the Helms Foundation was a big sports headquarters in New York City that ranked teams back in those days.
Well, that's
And
how,
they had as much influence about ranking of teams as the AP did and the UP.
yeah, for many years, that's how football was decided. It was
They've even taken our team picture out of the programs at the UK,
huh.
and they kept it in for a long time because we were undefeated. But I don't think that they have. I have to agree with Kansas' idea of recognizing those teams at number one by Helms Foundation, because back then they were bigger, and it's specifically, I don't know if they beat the NCAA and didn't play in it, but see, we didn't play in the tournament because of their rule, NCAA rules, and we beat the team that won the tournament, and we were undefeated. And Helms Foundation had every right to vote us number one best team in the nation, even after the tournament.
Yeah.
I think they did that to show the NCAA up, because a lot of people didn't think it was a fair ruling to keep our 3 All-Americans from playing. They let them play all year long because they were fifth-year students. Now, fifth-year students can play. Back then, fifth-year students, Hagen, Ramsey, and Seropoulos worked on their master's degree that 5th year.
Yeah, that's right.
But now, see, they let them play. But we had to pay the price for from very dumb and stupid rulings by the NCAA. But anyway.
All right. Well, that was a great year. Of course, that's, UK fans will always remember the 53, 54 team. But
Yeah.
your junior year, though, you had some big changes.
Well,
Big changes, right?
my future wife had gone to school at UK the same time I went. She was a big UK person. Her sister gone to UK, and I got a scholarship to UK. We were dating, and so we continued to date in college. Freshman, sophomore, we graduated at the same time. In 1952, she graduated from McDowell High, and I graduated from Martin High. We dated 2 years in high school. So it was just made perfect. We went on to college together and dated together, and we decided to get married after our sophomore year. And so we did. We got married July 7th in the New Martin Chapel, Martin LDS Chapel in Martin. The first one to get married in it, and July 7th. And we had our honeymoon out west. We traveled to Idaho Falls and got married in the temple. So we had civil marriage at Martin, and we had a temple marriage at Idaho Falls a week later, July 14th. But we decided to get married, and I had all kinds of pressure on me to transfer from Kentucky. My dad, my coach, and some of the coaches, a lot of the coaches in Floyd County at that time had been Wesleyan graduates.
You say your coach, you mean high school coach?
My high school
It wasn't
coach.
Rupp, it was your high school.
It wasn't
Okay.
Coach Rupp. And they had contacted me, and Bullet Wilson, coach at Wesleyan, contacted me. And I told him,
Why were you getting pressure to go to Wesleyan?
huh?
Why were you getting pressure to go to Kentucky?
Because I
Wesleyan?
wanted to get to play at Kentucky, and my dad and my high school coach and some coaches in the county, Tommy Boyd, Dog Campbell, and Coach Halbert, and who else was there? There's another one, Percy Woods. They all thought I was getting a bum deal at Kentucky, and they contacted Coach Bullet Wilson. They had played at Wesleyan, and they contacted him, and he said, "Yeah, I'll give Pete a scholarship. He'd come on down here." And so anyway, we got married, and they offered Phyllis a job as she was a good secretary. She had studied at those 2 years at UK. They offered her a job in General Electric there in Owensboro, a good job, and they gave me full scholarship.
Wow.
So that was pretty good. They favored my nest real good to go to Wesleyan, and see, we couldn't have gotten married and stayed in Kentucky. Coach Rupp didn't want you to marry. And so anyway, and I went to BYU. We went out and visited BYU, Pete, while we were out west. We went down to Salt Lake City and Provo after we went to Idaho Falls. And Coach Watts offered me a workship at BYU. And I think the mission president, back then the mission presidents helped recruit for BYU.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he had told, they had told about me and Vernon Hatton, the mission president had, to the athletic department out there at BYU. And Coach Watts offered me a work. They didn't call it a scholarship. If they'd called it a scholarship, we might have gone. But he said he'd give me a workshop and he'd give Phyllis a job.
Did you
And
go
Phyllis
play
will be
for BYU?
Phyllis will be a secretary there in the athletic department.
Huh. So you were that close of going to BYU and playing basketball. How
Yeah.
about that? Now,
And-
this is all after you, right when you guys got married. This is after your sophomore year of UK.
After my sophomore year, we go out west, married, and we
Okay.
visit BYU campus.
Okay.
Because Coach had got in touch with me about maybe coming to BYU, and we stopped by and visited with him, looked over the gym and everything, and so we decided to go on to Wesleyan. Now your mother could have gone on to school because her mother offered to send her and I offered to help her, and your mother chose not to. She didn't have to work, but she did. She was really good at secretarial work
So
back
she
then.
worked and did not go to school while you were at Kentucky Wesleyan.
Right.
Okay. This is your junior year. now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we had it made pretty good. I mean, I had a scholarship and she was making money. So
Yeah.
you couldn't beat
So you
that.
played basketball and baseball there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually more successful in college as a baseball player. I was a good baseball player.
Yeah.
I played at Drift Independent School. I mean, independent leagues every summer when I was in high school, and even the summer before I went to Napier to coach, I played my last year with Drift. We had a really good baseball team.
Were you
too.
an infielder? What position?
Played shortstop and
Shortstop.
third base.
Yeah.
Played shortstop at Drift, played third base at Wesleyan, and played third base and outfield at UK. I made the UK starting team in baseball in my sophomore year.
You did.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. One of the first games I played as a third baseman over at Richmond, we played Eastern. Kentucky played Richmond. I had a grand slam home run.
Wow.
Only one I ever hit. I hit one over there.
Wearing a Kentucky baseball uniform.
Oh yeah,
How
third
about that?
base, grand slam. I hit it so far they didn't have a fence. It rolled way out there in left field.
So
And-
Rupp didn't mind you playing another sport?
No, he liked it. He came and watched that year. He came over and watched us play baseball.
That's
It was right across the field. It was right across from the Coliseum. The field was
Oh yeah.
in those days.
Oh,
And
that-
Coach Rupp would come over and watch us
That's
sometimes.
kind of cool. Adolph Rupp would come watch you guys play baseball.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
All right. So you fast forward. You got so your junior and senior year was Kentucky Wesleyan, and you're majoring in what?
Well, I changed my major at Kentucky to physical education and history, and got into the College of Education because I wanted to coach. I didn't make that decision until I was my sophomore year.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up going 5 years too
All right, but
to college. I ended up about 150, 160 college hours.
wait. So your fifth year of college was where?
After I finished my junior and senior year at Wesleyan, I had a
State-
bad accident before basketball started.
Yeah.
Went down and started as a junior, and I played baseball
Yeah.
as a starter, third base down at Wesleyan. And I just tell you the truth, I helped coach. I did most of the coaching in baseball. Bullet would give me the equipment. I had a car, and he'd tell me when we'd have practice, and he'd give me the equipment out of his car and put it in my car, and I go hold practice. And he'd tell us when we had the first game. He never did come to practice. He'd go to some of the games. And me and Dale Kellis were the coaches, a pitcher. And but anyway.
So what was the accident? What happened?
Well, so my senior year, we were scrimmaging in our field house in Owensboro, and it was just about a week or two before the start of the season. And there was a long pass. I went down on a fast break, and a player threw me a long pass, and I jumped up to get it, and a guy on defense jumped up at the same time, and he hit me and knocked me around, and I caught the ball one-handed, but when I came down, I was twisted. My leg was twisted, and he was practically on top of me. And what that did, that snapped the small bone in your leg, the fibula.
Yeah.
And that was my season in basketball.
Wow, it knocked you out.
So
you.
I come back, I have a walking cast. The missionaries helped me go to school. They drove me to school a lot while my leg was healing, and I was in a cast, a walking cast there toward the end. And so my leg healed, and I got back time to play baseball again and manage the baseball team.
So you ended up playing baseball again.
Yeah.
All right, so you completed your 4th year at Kentucky Wesleyan playing baseball. Then you said you had but you needed one more year to get your undergrad degree, right? Is that correct? So is that where, did you stay Wesleyan or did you go back to UK?
That's when we moved back to UK.
Okay, so now you're moving back to UK.
In the meantime, while I'm at Wesleyan, we had Gay.
Okay,
A
so
senior
Gay's
year.
born.
Same time I broke my leg, we had Gay. Gay was born about, a little bit after I had broken my leg.
So Gay was born in Owensboro? Where was Gay?
No, she came home because of my situation.
Oh, Mom came home.
Phyllis came, your mom came home to McDowell.
Okay.
Because of my situation. The missionaries helped me go back and forth to school.
Okay,
and
so
she had Gay and Martin.
So she stayed with Granny and Grandpa Martin in McDowell.
Yeah.
And Gay was born in McDowell.
Yeah.
Okay, while you're in Owensboro.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I couldn't drive or anything. The missionaries took me back and forth.
Well, Owensboro was a far trip with those kind of roads.
Back then, it was a 9-hour trip.
Oh my gosh.
From McDowell or Martin to Owensboro.
That's 1 hour less than me getting to Kansas City from here now.
Yeah.
And
it was a terrible drive.
You weren't even going across the whole state. You were just going up, Lexington and across on the Ohio River there.
But the roads back then, we had no 4 lanes and no interstates.
That's why I asked. It's wow. Okay.
And it was a terrible drive.
So then you go back to UK to finish your undergrad. Mom joined you there. Is that right?
Yeah, she
with baby.
We rented a house down there in Lexington, out there on what was the name of that house?
Did you
some kind of boulevard out on the east side of town?
Did when you were at school, did you go look up Coach Rupp, say hi to him or anything? Or
when I went back?
Yeah.
I saw him a few times.
I mean, how did he handle that you transferred, though, your junior year? How did you tell him?
Well,
who walks into Adolph Rupp and say, hey, thanks, but I'm leaving?
I didn't. We handled it through, I handled it through Cliff and Frank, and I had them to tell Coach Lancaster.
Yeah.
But
you saw Rupp later in years, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. Coach Rupp and I stayed good friends all the time.
Okay.
All the time. In fact, all right, I go back for 5th year, major in physical education and history, so I could be a coach, and I get this job at MC Napier.
In Hazard.
Yeah, in Hazard.
Yeah. And
I tried to get a job in Floyd County, but I couldn't, David. I had all the jobs for basketball were closed. I was off a football job, but V.O. Turner, he was a good friend of mine. He was superintendent of schools. He's from Maytown, and he really liked me, and I liked him. And he tried to get me to coach football at Wheelwright, and I wouldn't do it. And so I was offered to Napier. They came down and saw me. The board member, who was a relative of my dad, found out where I was, what I was doing, and they needed a coach. A coach had died at MC Napier, brain hemorrhage, cancer, and they came down and looked me up in my apartment and talked to me about the Napier job, and so we went up and talked to him about it. But I had Coach Rupp. I went to see Coach Rupp about it, and he wrote me the best letter of recommendation you ever heard.
To MC Napier?
Yeah.
Well, no wonder you got the job. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm not kidding, but the people thought I could almost walk on water when I went up there because the Coach Rupp recommended me.
Oh my gosh, Dad, you're a part of the undefeated team.
Yeah.
Adolph Rupp writes a letter of recommendation. I mean, this is only, 3 years later from that team, and then, I guess anybody would have hired you.
He did. He wrote me the nicest letter. We stayed friends a long time. In fact, when I took my teams from McDowell to the state, back then it was held in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
The tournament was held in Louisville because that was the biggest arena,
Freedom
for
Hall.
it.
Yeah.
Didn't have Rupp Arena then, and it's a bigger Coliseum. I'd stop and practice my McDowell teams at the Coliseum. I called Coach Rupp and Coach Lancaster, and I'd tell them when I was going to drive through the day before we played.
And they
in the
let you use the
tournament.
Coliseum.
We practiced Coliseum. They furnished everything that I needed for the boys.
Wow.
Trunks, jocks, ball shoes, anything we needed.
Wow.
The equipment manager, and it was Bill. Mr. Wildcat was the equipment manager.
Was it Kite? Bill
Kitely.
Kitely.
He was. I knew him, and me and Jerry both knew him. Really liked Bill. But they would have everything laid out for us, give it to us. Boys would shower after and leave their stuff in.
Wow, that's probably a better highlight than.
I did
playing the state tournament.
every 3 times we went to state tournament. I stopped and practiced at the Coliseum 3 times.
All right, that was McDowell. So we're getting ahead of ourselves. Get back to MC Napier though.
I go over to MC Napier, and
It's your first coaching job. Your first
first
job out of
coaching job.
college.
Well,
MC Napier had won how many games the year before?
they never had won a district.
Yeah.
And they hadn't been winning too much. In fact, it was a relatively new school. It was about 7 or 8 years old,
Yeah.
and the coach had died of cancer, brain cancer. And then I got the job. And they liked me so good before I even got up there that they told me to bring a football coach with me. So I brought my buddy that I got to be friends with, Ed Orick, and his wife Joanne, from Middlesboro, and he was down there working on his master's, and I got to know him. He taught a class that I was in. I got to know him and asked him if he was a football player too. He played up in Minnesota football, and he was from Bell County, Kentucky. And it wasn't the University of Minnesota, it was one of those connected with Minnesota. But anyway, it was a good football league. And he went up there with me, and they interviewed him and gave him a football job.
Oh, that's good. So you had friends with you now.
Yeah, so Ed, and they hired him as my assistant in basketball, and guess what? I was hired as his assistant in football.
Go figure.
And I was a baseball coach. I hired him as a baseball coach. The baseball coach got 11 months.
Yeah.
I got 11 months out of it. Baseball, they hired
Right,
baseball.
so how'd your basketball team do that first year?
We did terrible. Start out. I had problems. I was apparently a big change. I was stricter. I had to be organized on my offense and defense. I had to teach them that. So the thing that hurt at Napier was we didn't have a gym. They rented Hazard's gym. And Hazard's gym, we had to pay, at our home games, we had to pay 35% of our gate to Hazard High School.
Wow.
35%.
So how did you practice?
We practiced at Hazard Gym, and the way it was, back then, in order to practice at Hazard Gym, we had the 5th and 6th period. I put the basketball team in those 2 afternoon periods. I drove a bus up to Hazard Gym, got out, they got dressed, we practiced, got back on the bus, drove back in time for school to be let out.
Wow.
Now, that wasn't more than the time you did all that, they didn't get more than about an hour and 15 minutes practice.
Yeah.
But Ed had to do that in football. But Dilsey Combs had to do the same thing, but they practiced in the mornings. Dilsey did not have a gym.
They used Hazard.
The 2 large schools in Perry County did not have a gym. And that's the thing I did not like about it. But nonetheless, because of that, we did come along in the latter part of the season decently. Because, and when there was bad weather, we couldn't practice.
Yeah.
When there wasn't any school, we couldn't practice. Our boys, they were all over that end of Perry County. They was over at, down at Robinson and over at Blue Diamond and up at Hard Burley, up Lots Creek. And The boys couldn't get into practice. We didn't have a place we could practice. But I had to dismiss my 2 leading scorers and a senior. All 3 seniors, I had to dismiss them. Start of the season. We had won a game against Cordia, and we had lost a game or 2, and we played Hazard early in the year. Of course, that was Hazard Gym. And they beat me 40-some points. And I never will forget that loss. Well, I took my boys out, first team, let my subs play because they was getting beat so bad. And I thought, well, no more, shouldn't keep on embarrassing these boys. And I was getting embarrassed, but I might as well let all my players play. And I let them play most of the last quarter for subs. And these 3 boys, my 2 leading scorers, my 2 co-captains, 3 boys, during that 4th quarter when I was playing the subs, got up and walked off the bench and walked down into the dressing room in front of it. That place was packed. Manager said, "Coach, you see that?" I said, "Yeah." "What are you going to do?" I said, "Don't do anything right now." So I waited about 5 minutes, and I told my man, I said, "You go down there in that dressing room. The game was still going on." I said, "You get their uniforms. You tell them they're off the team." Okay. So he did. So I threw him off the team that night. And I had practice that night too.
Yeah.
We practiced that game. And your mom patted on me all night and encouraged me. In the bed, I didn't sleep.
So why did you practice? Was it because your team played so bad, or was it just?
Yeah. I just want to make a point.
Oh, okay.
I practiced them, I don't know how long. Maybe it wasn't more than an hour, but I practiced them, just to make a point.
So how far did you get that year?
Well, let me tell you what. I kicked them off. I had the chairman of the Board of Education came down to my house, my apartment, and tried to get me to take them back, and I wouldn't do it. The chairman of the Board of Education. People on that end of the county said, well, we're ruined now. We have 3 best players, captains, best scorer from the season before, off the team, and people won't let them back. No, I didn't let them back. So I started looking at my players. One day, I was up there. The boys were getting dressed in the Hazard Gym, and I looked down on the end of the court, and there, 2 or 3 of the boys who had gotten dressed early got out there quick, and a couple of my managers were playing with them. And one of my managers was burning them up. He was 6'1". He'd been the quarterback for MC Napier. Bobby Young, never will forget. And I kept watching him while the other boys were getting dressed. And he had a good shot. He could make it. He could drive. He had to bank it off a shot. Had a running one-hander. Mm-hmm. And I walked down the end of the floor, watched him a little bit more, and I stopped him from playing. I said, hold just a minute. I said, Bobby, come over here a minute. I said, well, what are you doing? He said, I'm just playing, Coach. I said, I hope you don't mind. I said, I know, but I said, you're my manager. I said, don't you like basketball? Yes, I like basketball, Coach. I said, don't you like to play it? Yeah. And yeah, I love to play it. I said, how come you didn't come out for the team? He said, well, Coach, said the previous coaches told me, he says, I was quarterback for a football team and I'd be manager for a basketball team. I said, they did? He said, that's why I'm your manager. 6'1", slender built, not any fat on him, could move. And I said, Bobby, would you like to play basketball now if I let you? You mean that, Coach? I said, yeah. I said, would you? He said, I sure would. I said, get your blanky blank down there in the dressing room and get dressed. You're on the team. And he did. Well, anyway, I discovered him. He was my leading scorer the rest of the year. You're talking about a little after Christmas time. And I brought one of my cousins off the B team, Perry Grigsby, to be a starting guard. And I brought a first sub starting guard up to be my other starting guard. And I kept my center that had been starting for me. And I brought a senior on the first five that had been a decent senior at the other forward. And they couldn't play very good, so we had games like Whitesburg and Hyman. When I went to Napier, I was killed. My schedule killed me. All those teams were great teams. You had Breathitt County, you had Hyman, you had Carr Creek, you had Whitesburg, you had Hazard, you had Delsey Combs. I played them twice a year. So anyway, I taught them how to play four corners.
Hold the ball, huh?
We held the ball for 2 or 3 games, and I taught them how to do it, and until they could get a little bit of offense going.
So did you have these players come back for your second year?
Anyway, I'm not finished on this story yet.
We gotta hurry.
Because that team learned to play pretty darn good. I went over and beat Prestonsburg on their home court. When that field house was new, they scheduled all their games the last part of 57, 56, 57. I went over and beat Prestonsburg. Paul Phillip was a player on that team. They had a good ball team. We beat them. And I beat that team came back and beat 2 or 3 teams that had beaten us earlier. And we went down to Breathitt County, and Pharisee Woods had bragged how bad he was going to beat me. Went down there and held the ball the first half on him. And he had I never will forget, he had a 28 to 16 or 17, 10, 11 point lead at halftime. And we was holding the ball, and he kept looking down. When you going to put the air back in the ball, Pete? Anyway, no, I tell you what the score was, 13 to 7 at halftime. So I go down to the dressing room, I tell the boys, now we're going to run with them. Okay, coach, that's good, coach. I said, but we're going to start out, we're clearing out the right-hand side, driving our guard, pick and roll, driving our guard, clear out the right side. And after we run that a few times, we're going to come back and clear out the left side. They had a guy about 6'7". They were one of the best teams in the state. They ended up beating me 4 points, 44 to 40. Like killed for. He wouldn't talk to me for a whole year. But anyway, that team became a good ball team. We won the first game in the district tournament. And guess who we played in the semifinals? The number 1 team in the state, Hazard Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And we had them beat. With a few seconds to go, had the ball and 1 point lead. And the referee, what was his name? Called walking on my guard, and he didn't walk. He was holding the ball. Gave the ball to Hazard. They go down and score a field goal and beat me 1 point.
Same team that beat you by 40 points earlier. Yeah. Wow.
They were ranked number 1 too.
Yeah.
George Connolly was the referee. And his buddy sold books, and they would come by Napier High School and sell books. His buddy, who traveled with him from Ashland, came down the next day to Napier High School, called me into the office and apologized to me for George cheating us.
Wow.
Yeah.
He saw the game.
He said, I cussed George all night long. Yeah, he was traveled with him. George refereed he was from Ashland, Larry Connolly's dad.
Yeah.
And he came down and apologized to me for him. He said, I cussed him all night long, Pete. Said that was the biggest take that I've ever seen in a basketball game, to do a team like that. Yeah, he came down and he said, I jumped all over George after it was over. He said, you had him beat. Well, after that game, the superintendent of schools, this is my first year now, superintendent of schools in Perry County comes down on the floor and shakes my hand and tells me what a great job I did.
Wow.
Well, anyway, it was it was one of my better coaching jobs.
Second year you went on,
Second year, we move on and won the first district tournament.
so you actually won the
And
district
guess who
tournament.
we beat in the district finals?
Hazard.
Hazard.
Good.
We go to the finals of 14th region for the first time in the history of the school, and Breathitt County beats us in the finals.
But you made all the way to the finals of the regions?
Huh?
Or you went to the finals of the regional?
Yeah, we were in the finals.
Wow.
One game away from state tournament.
Wow. So
The second year.
you really made your mark. Okay. Well, then, but then you left MC Napier.
Well, I decided then that if you're going to get to make any decision, we didn't have a gym. We were trying to get a gym. We had a boosters club, and we did get a field for football and baseball down at Airport Gardens,
Mm-hmm.
and we rented it, and we got I went over and got the lights at Wayland to put lights up. The boosters club and I did that, and Ed Orick, the football coach. And I took the money that we got from the regional tournament and fenced it, metal fence, the field. And I decided, since we didn't have a gym, I better go back to school and get my principalship just in case I might need it.
Yeah.
So I go back to school, take a full year sabbatical, and go back. And that's when we lived in, where did we live that year?
Cooperstown.
Cooperstown.
You went back to Lexington, to UK.
Yeah, to get my master's. It took a year to get a master's. It took 30
Right.
hours, 30 credits to get a full year to get a master's. And I decided to do that. Borrowed money on my life insurance, $3,500. And I worked at 3 jobs, part-time jobs.
So once again, you back at UK.
Once
And-
again, we lived at Cooperstown. And by then, we had Jury and Gay. Jury was a baby.
All right. So 2
She'd been
children.
born in 1959 at Hazard.
Who coached the basketball team at MC Napier while you were gone?
The football coach, Ed
Your
Orr, did.
friend.
They hired somebody else, but he was pitiful, and so they put, before the year was over with, they made Ed the basketball coach. And Ed and the board member would stop down at UK and see me, and they come down maybe to a UK game or a football game or something, and they keep me posted on how things were going, because I was going back to Napier. With a sabbatical leave of absence, you don't lose your job what you left.
Right. So you knew you were going back to MC Napier
Yeah.
to coach again.
So they kept me informed how the team was going, and it didn't do any good.
Yeah.
Didn't do any good. I don't think he won 5 games that year.
Well.
But anyway, we go back to Napier, and we live up there in Hazard. Dahlhauer's rented us an apartment up there. Willie Dahlhauer, who ran the Dahlhauer store. We had a real nice store back in those days in Hazard. And anyway, I coached and ended up with a decent team. We were runners up in the district, won a game in the regional, and I got the semifinals of the regional. And toward the end of that year, Gordon Moore, who was athletic director in Floyd County Schools, came and talked to me about taking Prestonburg High School job. They were going to hire a high school coach, coach basketball. And of course, me being from Floyd County, they thought maybe I'd be interested, and I was. And my dad-in-law, Sam Martin, and Walter Frazier had talked to me about it, a little bit about it, and they were supportive of me going to Prestonsburg. And they wanted Sammy to go to McDowell. Well, Sam Jr., your uncle, and I was ready to do that. Me and Phyllis had gone over and visited some of Leslie's. Some of Leslie's were some of Miss Martin's people, and they knew us, and we went on and visited some with Dr. Leslie and some of his 2 doctors, and they wanted us to come to Prestonsburg. But anyway, something happened. I don't know what. Jack Frost Wells from Oxford all of a sudden got the Prestonsburg job. And then my dad-in-law, Sam Martin, talked to me about coming to McDowell. And I said, what about Sam Jr.? He said, well, he can be your assistant. He said, the people would rather have you anyway at McDowell. And Walter wanted me at McDowell. Walter was assistant superintendent. And they had won the board race up Left Beaver. And Bill Blair was their board member, and they wanted me to come to McDowell. They changed it. So I came over to McDowell, and the latter part of the season, I got to see McDowell play a game or two. And they had some good boys coming. Although they weren't winning, they hadn't won consistently. They were doing pretty good that year, though. Think about it. And they wanted me to come to McDowell, and my dad-in-law wanted his daughter back over there too. And I was worried about Sam Jr., but they said Sam would be my assistant, and George L. Moore, the principal, was satisfied with me. He wanted me too, so.
Well, he built you a house, right?
And Sam built us a house right next to him.
How about that? So Mom's living next door to her parents, back at her school, because she graduated from McDowell.
Right.
And now you're going to be coaching there.
I'm going to be coaching there. And George L. Moore called me into his office, first of school, and told me, listen, if there's ever a good principal in this world, it was George L. Moore. He was a great principal. He had a great academic program going. Those kids came out of there learning now. We had a great faculty, and academics was number one. And I knew it, and Phyllis had told me. And see, McDowell hadn't had anything in basketball. So, they was all kind of anxious for me to get there and coach. But he called me in the office and talked to me about it. And he told me, I almost fell out of my chair. He said, I want as good a basketball program out of you as I've got an academic program. And I looked at Mr. Moore. I said, really? He said, yes, I want you to build us a good basketball program. I said, all right, sir. I said, you won't have to worry about the rules. I'll stay within your rules and the KHSA rules. And I said, I'll check grades every 6 weeks, and I'll bring them to you. And boy, it surprised me. It really did. But he wanted a good basketball team. And by golly, I gave him a good one. And it was easy because the kids were already disciplined. They already had to make their grades. I didn't worry about their grades. The only young man I had problems with on grades was a good basketball player. And one semester I won't say his name, a good little guard, really good little fast guard. I had reluctantly took his grades to Mr. Moore, and I'd already said in my heart, and I was going to dismiss the boy. And Mr. Moore said, oh, so that's him. I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Moore, but we're going to have to let him go. And he looked at it, and he said, now, Coach, said, this boy comes to school every day. He's never late. Yes, sir. He said, he's never given me any trouble. He's a good boy at school. I said, yes, sir. He said, let him play.
Well, good.
And I did. He was a good ball player, too. I don't know if I should say his name, but it was a little Tuttle boy.
Oh,
One of our neighbors.
Yeah.
He was fast and quick. Man, I tell you what. He led my teams in assists until Barry took over. He had a one-hand set shot at the point guard, and he'd act like he was shooting it. And we had to play with him and Ricky Hall, and Ricky would jump up like in the pros and catch it and put it in. Couldn't dunk it back then, but you could put it in. He just jumped up and put it in off a goal, off the backboard.
All right, we're back. Sorry, I had to take a little break. Now you're coaching McDowell. If I can paraphrase this, McDowell was an academic school. They wanted you to build up the basketball program. You said you had some pretty good players coming in. What year was it? What year was your first year at McDowell coaching?
1961-62.
Okay.
I had Dean Stewart was center, and Firebug Turner was one of my forwards. Keith Howe, Wendell McCoy, and those boys were the boys I had left over from previous year. And I think that team won 27, 28 games.
That's good.
Runners up in the 58th district, and lost in the semifinals of the region. So that was an improvement for McDowell.
So that was your very first year coaching
Yeah.
there.
The next year, 62-63, I only lost Dean Stewart. Came back with a veteran team, headed by Firebug Turner, Ronnie Moore, and some of those Keith Howe, and Sean Howe, and Ronnie Moore. And we won 29 games and lost 8. Only lost 8 that year. We were runners-up again. We lost to Garrett in the finals in the district, and we played them again in the finals of the region. And we lost in 2 overtimes by 2 points.
Oh my gosh.
In 1963. We were ranked as one of the better teams in the state. High ranking was in the 15th region. And David made the MVP of the Ashland Invitational Tournament. We made a good showing down there. And you were only the second player in the history of the school to make MVP too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you and David were both MVPs Ashland Invitational.
Huh.
So,
But David, we can say David though went on, even though he didn't get to make it to the state tournament, he went on to play college ball.
he played college ball at Moorhead.
Moorhead.
And 4 of my 5 that year, David was only one that went to Moorhead. The other 4 went to Pikeville on basketball scholarships.
Wow. So you had a
They really liked that team. That was a good ball team. Had
Right.
size and everything. Coach Butcher gave 4 of them scholarships. It would have given David a scholarship too, but David went to Moorhead. But 4 of them got scholarships to play
So
basketball.
I'm assuming your next year you had to rebuild.
Yeah, I had 8 seniors that year, and the next year was rebuilding year. In 63-64, people were saying around town we wouldn't win 4 games, and guess what? We won 20.
Wow.
And the team that went to state tournament, we beat twice during the season. Wayland went to state tournament. We beat them twice. And that was the year that I came up with changing defenses. We were runners-up in the Henry County Invitational Tournament. We beat Shelby County, coached by Billy Harrell, and they had gone on 2 years later, won the state championship. They were favored to win that tournament. They put us against Shelby County the first game thinking they'd beat us out, and we beat Shelby County by changing our defenses. 2-3, 1-3-1, 2-3. That was the first year that I invented my changing defenses. Where it came from was in football, I'd been the line coach, and the coach had me changing defenses, like a 4-3-2, a 5-2-1-1, or whatever in football. You change 6-2-3. And I changed defenses. So I thought, well, what if I can change defenses in basketball? And I taught the boys how to change defenses. We practiced it. And we changed defense every time, and it confused. In those days, it confused everybody because everybody was used to playing against man-to-man defense.
Oh, yeah.
So I won 20 games doing that. 64-65, we won the first Floyd County Conference Championship. Got upset in the... we beat Martin twice. They beat me twice. Martin went to state, and they only lost 2 games the whole year in 64-65. Guess who beat them? McDowell beat them twice. They lost the first game of the state tournament. But they had a good ball team. Martin had a really good ball team. We did too. And I had a bunch of good boys, and they could play defense. And we had a good offensive team along with that. Had the Hall brothers, Heinrich, Turry, and some of those boys. I can't think of all, Woody and maybe Tracy and Ricky. But anyway, we go on the next year. So won the conference in 64-65, won 20-some games, and was ranked one of the top teams in the region. And right next to Martin, there's top 2 teams in the district. And the year before that, I won 20 by changing defenses with a rebuilding year. And then in 65, 66, that was the year we went state. And the first time McDowell went state tournament. And I did that by changing my lineup. I went from size. I had a chance to play. First semester, I played my height. I had a team average about 6'4". The year before, I saw Martin win with the big team, and I thought I'd try it at McDowell first semester, and that didn't work. I wasn't happy. I went back to speed the second semester, changed my theory, and changed my lineup. I went back with speed with Terry Heinisch and Donnie Hall at guards, and moved Ricky back to center instead of forward, and played Tracy Stumbo as defense and rebounding forward, and Woody Carter as a shooting forward. And that combination worked. We had a 3-man fast break that way. We had good rebounding, good defense, and a fast offense. So we go to state that year, 65-66. First year that McDowell's ever been to state tournament. And George L. Moore had retired. That was the first year I was assistant principal, too, with Lloyd Stumbo came in as principal. And Lloyd backed us 100%. He was great to work with. And so anyway, George L. Moore retired, and he wrote me the nicest letter because that's what he wanted me to do. We finally go. 67, 66, 67, I only had my guards back. I lost everything underneath, Stumbo, Carter, and the Hall. And rebuilding, didn't have much size coming back. And Tommy Martin had come in. That helped me a whole lot. And Sammy Adams had come along. We didn't have any size. Maytown had one of their great teams, and we ended up actually second in the district to Maytown. Maytown went to state. And 67, 68, I came back one of the best teams we ever had. Speed, size, and shooting, scoring. The 67, 68 team won 30-some games. Barry Hall was the point guard. Tommy Martin was the leading scorer. Sammy Adams the top scorer. Sammy got sick on me. That's what hurt my team big time. He got sick with mono, and I had to stay out the whole rest of the semester, except he came back for a tournament, but he was physically weak. And I had 8 seniors, too, that year. I had a good bench, and Hall boy and Newsom boy, and I don't know, on that bench, several good players. But one thing about that team, they won the district, as did the well, no, that was the first one that won the district. We'd runners up the previous year. Won the district tournament going away. We got to the finals regionally and lost them even more by 2 points. We just had a bad game. Had 11-point lead at halftime down at Prestonsburg, and they come back and beat us. We just couldn't make a shot, decent shot that last half. I don't know what happened to us. But anyway, about that team, you know what that team could play? About 7 or 8 different defenses. They could play half-court defense. They could press full court. They could press half court. They could press three-quarter court. They were fast, medium-sized, 6'2", 6'3". Anyway, the main thing about that team, they scored 100 points, over 100 points, 10 times that season. 10 times without the three-point line.
So are you saying that was the best team you ever had?
No, I can't say it's one of the best. 63 was one of the best. Probably the best all-around team is the 71 team. Probably.
Okay, so let's go to that one. That was your next That was your next state tournament team. Who was on that team? 71.
71 team was Glenn Turner, a point guard. Or Steve Smith, 6'11", All-American center. Glenn Turner, All-State guard. Chisel Salisbury, 6'6", low post player. Mike Turner, wing player. And Gary Hopkins, wing player.
Is that the team that went to the quarterfinals? Which team?
Yeah. That team,
tournament?
we lost to Anderson County in 2 overtimes. We could have easily been runners-up. If we'd won that game, we'd been runners-up.
In the state?
In the state.
Wow. Was that at Freedom Hall, Louisville? Is that where that tournament was?
Freedom Hall.
I remember going to that.
That was a real good team. We went into the state tournament with 34 wins.
How many losses?
5, something
So
like
a really
that.
good team.
Yeah, we were ranked in the top 5 in the state all year long.
Yeah, I can believe that. That's
We went through the district tournament and the regional tournament. We won by double figures every game. The closest any team got to us with that team was 11 points. Was Maytown in the finals of the district. They had Pat Talent and had a good ball team, and they came within 11 points of us. We went to state, beat Pikeville about 41 points. We beat Virgin in the semifinals by 17, 18, something like that. They had a good team. Virgin had a good team.
I'm surprised you lost 5 games that year. Then, who beat you there in that season?
I can't recall, Pete.
Well, that's okay.
We beat Lafayette that year. They won the state tournament,
Yeah.
coached by Jock Sutherland, and he wanted to try to beat me, and we went to Coliseum. He scheduled a game there. We beat Lafayette that year. We beat Thomas Jefferson. Won the Henry County Invitational tournament. Won every tournament we played in. Won the Wheelwright Invitational. Won the Henry County Invitational. Won the preseason tournament. We won 5 different tournaments, district and regional, and had a really good ball club. But size, good shooting.
So you come off a big year like that. So your '72 team obviously was you lost a lot of great players, right?
Yeah, we came back in the '72 team. We, of course, I lost those players, those senior players. Came back with Smith. Smith was the only one left, and I built the team around him, and we really had a good team. Let's see, Eddie Campbell came over, transferred. I played. Neil Turner was coming along.
Mm-hmm.
He was off my B team. He was a good player.
Yeah.
And he was becoming a really good player. He was a junior. Eddie Campbell was a junior. Steve Smith was a senior. And Glennie Heinisch took over my point guard.
Okay, so you're talking. Yeah, this is a team that would take you back in '73.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But let me tell you about this '72 team. The best team in the region and the county was Betsy Lane. They had Big Dan Hall, 6'10".
Yeah, I remember.
They had a
now.
Tackett boy that was 6'6", 6'7". And they had 2 great guards, Bryant and Lawson. And they had another forward that was good. They were as big as some college teams. And they had beaten us during the season. We still had a good season. We won 20-some games that year. We played them in the semifinals of the district. We got them beat with about 25 seconds to go. We got them by 1 point. Got Betsy Lane. We're pressing full court. Tommy Boyd's trying to call a timeout. The boys don't see him. They throw the ball in bounds. Steve Smith has just stolen the ball as a point guard on red defense.
Mm-hmm.
Inbounds pass, he'd stolen it, laid it in, and gave us a 1 point lead, and everything was tore up. And they had the ball out of bounds, and threw it in bounds. Finally got it in bounds with about 20-some seconds to go. And the guard, let's listen to that. The guard drove down behind the center line and shot a desperation one-handed shot at the buzzer. And knocked the bottom out of it and beat me 1 point. Just as the ball went through the net, the horn sounded.
Oh.
And I would have gone to state that year.
Wow.
But that Betsy Lane goes down and loses first game in the region. Johnson Central goes to state. But we would have gone to state.
Wow.
But anyway, that was a good ball. It ended up a good ball team. Sure
Right.
did.
Well,
Good ball team.
We're getting short on time, so we got to get to 73.
All right, 72, 73, my last team go to state. It would be the third team go to state. And I built the team. Again, I had problems with finding my lineup where I wanted it. And at the midterm, our team was 7-10, 7 wins, 10 losses. And I changed again. I changed my lineup. This is the second time I changed my lineup since I've been coaching. I changed it 66. The second semester we go to state with with Terry and Donnie at the guard and Ricky at the center and Woody and Tracy at the forward. I changed my lineup again, and this time I go with one player as my key player, Neil Turner. And I moved Ricky Roberts up from a B team the second semester and started him at the forward, and Neil Moore at the center, and moved Johnny Pack out to a defensive guard and a shooting forward, and Glenn Heinisch was my point guard. The record was 7-10. We won 18 out of our last 20 games that year. Won the district, going away, beat Betsy Lane 27 points, and we go down there to regional. We beat Belfry in 2 overtimes. We beat Pikeville in 2 overtimes, and we beat Sheldon Clark 17 points in the finals.
I remember the Sheldon Clark.
And that team was 7-10. And when I changed my lineup and got it the way I wanted it, and the boys would play together, they weren't selfish. And Neil was the leader. They all recognized Neil was my rover. I told him, I said, you go anywhere you want to go. You go guard, you go to center, you go to forward. And the boys, when you see him open, I want him to have a ball, and Neil, I want you to shoot it.
Well, we're closing in on the end of your basketball, because not long after that, when did you work on your master's?
I had my master's way back in Napier, remember?
Okay, but you went to school again to become an administrator.
Well, the school board contacted me. Charles Clark, our superintendent, was retiring, and the school board wanted me to become superintendent.
And you had to go back to school?
So I had to go back to UK to get my 30 hours work on my superintendents in rank 1.
What year was that?
That was 70, the next year, my last year at McDowell, 73, 74.
Oh, okay. And that was your last.
So I went that summer, and then the following summer, and took night classes. My coaching might have suffered some of that last year because of it.
Well, so you coached one more year, but
73, 74.
And that's when you were working on that, and then you knew you were going to move into the central office after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had planned on me to come in the last 2 years of Mr. Clark's tenure and make me assistant superintendent.
Okay, so basically now we're down to a couple of minutes left on this camera, but I just wanted to. So then you moved into administration. You walked away from coaching.
That's right.
Well, coaching teams. You always coached us. So.
And I coached 16 years.
Okay, 16 high school years.
High school, Napier, and 3 at Napier and 13 at McDowell.
Okay.
And my teams ended up, 6 of them ended up in the finals of the regional.
So you're that close going to state.
40% of my coaching tenure, you could see a McDowell or a Napier team in the finals of the regional. It wasn't bad at all. 3 of them won, went to state, and 3 of them was runners-up in the regional.
But in the history of McDowell High School, you're the only coach that took a team to the state.
Yeah, only one.
You went 3 times.
3 times and lost twice in the regional finals.
But then later, consolidation, South Floyd went 1 time.
The average wins at McDowell High School was 25-10.
Yeah, and of course we should mention too, David Turner, one of your former players in the early '60s, replaced you as coach. And then I played for him.
I went in assistant superintendent, and I named him to replace me.
Okay.
And Superintendent Clark went along with it. And since then, I have received High School Coaches Hall of Fame placement in their Hall of Fame organization. Received that award down at Rupp Arena during the state tournament several years ago. So I'm proud of that accomplishment. But McDowell was known as one of the powerhouses of the district and region.
It was well respected. Of course, we mentioned, right after you left, that's when your daughter Jerry started taking over as a player, kept McDowell on the map and radar because of what she did as a high school basketball player. So McDowell, thanks to your coaching and then through Jerry, had a very strong name in basketball. So well, Dad, thanks for doing this. We're about to run out of time here, but this was just the basketball portion of your life.
Right.
So we've got more.
And I want to brag on you, son. You were made second team All State. Jerry made first team, and I made first team. So I'm proud of my
Well,
posterity.
you can brag on me all you want. You've got about 2 minutes to do that. So.
Well, you had the misfortune of having some bad luck, and you and Coach Turner had some bad luck with your teams. You had a lot better team. You should have gotten to play in the regional 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
We had some good teams. Though.
Yeah. So I'm proud of you and proud of Jerry, of course, and my basketball career. Of course, it was ended when I went in later after 2 years as assistant superintendent in 1976. I was named the superintendent of schools.
Yeah.
And I lasted the superintendent of schools for about 10 years. And then I went back to being assistant superintendent.
Well, and you ended your education career there. What year did you officially retire? What year was that? It was recent, but what year do you remember?
3 years ago. What is this? 15? I retired.
So 2011,
I retired 2012.
Okay. Wow, you put a lot of years in education.
55.
Yeah. Wow.
51 in Floyd County.
Ah, how about that?
51 in Floyd County. So I look back and I say, where did it go to?
Oh,
What happened?
oh, there's the phone. That's our cue. So thanks, Dad, and we'll be doing more of this.
Okay.